Welcome back to Unlocked. This week's episode is going to be a little different, may look a little different, may sound a little different. Who knows how it's going to end up? But the reason being is because I am recording this on April 15th at 12 o'clock, and this episode drops tomorrow morning. So it gives us very little turnaround time for editing and to put all the touches that are normally done. So this is my problem because I've decided to do this the night before, and my awesome team around me has decided to do it. So let's just say if something doesn't look right or sound right, it's not a reflection of them, it's a reflection of me, because I was very adamant that we do this. So in case you're wondering, April 15th and our appeal is April 19th. So I'm recording this on Monday. The appeal is Friday. And it was super important for me to get this podcast out before the appeal because so many people are asking questions. There's so many misconceptions, just facts that aren't facts that are swirling around out there. So first off, I want to start off by saying our appeal is April 19th in Atlanta at the Russell Courthouse. Let's see. I want to let you guys know because you can attend if you want to attend. It is in Atlanta, April 19th at the Richard B. Russell Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse in Atlanta. The address is 75 Ted Turner Drive, Southwest. And I'm pretty sure our appeal is being heard at around 9 a.m. We're going to get there earlier. So if you want to come, show up. Be dressed appropriately. Obviously, it's a federal courthouse, and just be respectful of everyone around, law enforcement, attorneys, just everyone. Just remember, it's a federal courthouse, and make sure you bring your ID, leave your cell phone in the car because they are not allowed in a federal courthouse, and show up and support us. I will be there. Chase will be there. Grayson will be there. Nanny Faye will be there. My mom's parents will not be there, but the only reason is because my grandfather just is having a bunch of health issues, and they're going to be keeping Chloe for me so that she doesn't have to go and be subjected to all of that, because I just don't feel like it's the environment for an 11-year-old to be in, especially someone who's been just so traumatized by the system. I feel like it would be a lot for her to process and just cause her to take steps backwards. So she's going to be staying with my mom's parents, and they're going to go visit my mom on Saturday. We will all be at the courthouse Friday. We will hear the appeal. We have been designated our 3 judges, so we know who those judges are, and all I can do is hope and pray that God gives them just the energy, the wherewithal, the knowledge, just to truly look into our case and look into the documents and see what so many other legal analysis see. So with that being said, the appeal, April 19th, Federal Courthouse in Atlanta, Ted Turner Drive, and be there at 8:30. So we look forward to seeing you there. I hope you're there supporting us. Mom and dad's friends will be there, family. It's just so important to show up for people in times of need and in the midst of adversity. I know so far what I can tell you because this is in the court transcripts. There's a website that we all use. It's called Pacer, and that's where you can go and pull all the legal documents. On Pacer, you can see where we were assigned our court date. You can see all the documents that have been filed for our case. And recently, we were assigned our court date. We were assigned our panel of judges. And we also, within Pacer, you can see to where the appeals court has asked for certain exhibits in our case. So exhibits meaning certain evidence or certain documents pertaining to what we have alleged. So for me, I have to try to take the little wins as they come. I see that as a win because it's showing me that these judges are truly looking into the allegations that we've made, and they're wanting to review every little thing. So that to me is a win. It's a win that they're asking for more documents, more details, and I just hope and pray that these judges see like I said, what so many other people see. Another thing is our lawyers have sent a letter to the United States Attorney's Office requesting information pertaining to Tommy Krepp, who was the lead prosecutor on our case. The letter that was sent, and I'm talking a little bit slower because I'm making sure that I just put out what I'm allowed to put out. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to read the letter aloud, so I'm not going to read it aloud, but I can give you the information pertaining to the letter. So Tommy Krepp was the lead prosecutor on the case. I've spoken about him plenty of times before, and things just have not added up. If you look at the timeline of our case, started in 2012. So 2012, my parents were being investigated. It took 7 years for the government to issue a federal indictment. So that should really scare a lot of people at the fact that if the government had such a strong case, why did it take you 7 years to issue a federal indictment? It should be pretty easy if you believe someone is that guilty to get a federal indictment. And Tommy Krepp has been on the case from day one. This was his baby. This was his big case to go off in private practice and create a huge name for himself and be a lawyer that's making millions of dollars a year and not a lawyer making $150,000 a year. So this was the case that he needed to excel his career. And therefore, he put a lot of thought, time, energy into how he was going to potentially manipulate this case and how he was going to get a conviction. And throughout the trial, we obviously had alleged that there was government misconduct with the prosecutors, with Tommy Krepp and Annalise Peters. They were the two prosecutors on the case, and we had alleged that there was serious misconduct that could have changed the outcome of the verdict that was handed down by a jury. And we never got answers. The government responded and said that they just had harmless errors and that it didn't impact the trial. First off, that's not for the government to say. We know that jurors have said if they knew what the prosecutors had said was false, then it would have changed the outcome of the trial. So we know that to be a fact. And after trial, we had obtained information that showed that the prosecutors knew their witness was lying. They instructed her to lie. They instructed her to tell a story that was not accurate. Once we alleged that, Tommy Krepp was no longer at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, that should cause people to ask a lot of questions, and it happened very quietly. And when I say quietly, I mean very quietly, because he is not withdrawn from the case when he's no longer at the U.S. Attorney's Office. So therefore, he should have withdrawn from the case as counsel, and that has not happened. And he is now at the FDIC. And from what I'm being told by lawyers, friends in the criminal justice system, everyone has told me that you go to the FDIC to die, basically. Like, your career dies when you go to the FDIC. So that is a red flag to me, that this is the biggest case of your career and you leave the U.S. Attorney's Office to go to the FDIC. No one does that. You leave the U.S. Attorney's Office to go into private practice, to work on huge cases, to make millions of dollars a year. So none of it's adding up. And so we have sent a letter requesting all of this information from the government. We want to know why he's not there. We want to know if they gave him the opportunity to resign instead of being fired. We want to know of all of his misconduct, because we've been told that there was misconduct in previous cases as well. So we want to know why this man is in charge of the rest of someone else's life. We want to know all of the information pertaining to him. And I believe that as a citizen of the United States of America, going through a criminal trial, being prosecuted by your own country, I believe that you have the right to that information. And under certain laws and guidelines, we do have the right to that information. So I hope and pray that the government, the prosecutors, do the right thing and hand over that information, because that information could be very damning and it could change the outcome of this whole situation. And so that has happened, and I'm pretty sure the government has until Thursday to turn over such information. And if they don't, then we're going to have to take another route, which we're willing and able to do. And if they don't turn it over, that tells you all that you need to know. So that's kind of where we're at in this process of this whole appeal. And I have also retained another lawyer who is kind of coming on board, helping with this whole process, but also helping on the BOP side of things, the Bureau of Prisons, to help maybe rectify that situation, to help bring change to our federal prison system and these men and women who are suffering. And so I'm really excited about that. But for the appeal, I'm not going to lie. I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. Like, I am very, very, very nervous, because so far what I've seen from our justice system is injustice. I have seen a system and prosecutors that lied to get what they want. And unfortunately, since I want to say it's 1977, let's see if I'm right. When were prosecutors granted? So many dates, guys. Yep, 1976. So in 1976, prosecutors were granted full immunity. And for people that don't realize what that is prosecutors can never be prosecuted for their misconduct, mistakes, whatever it may be. They can act in such a way that is so egregious and there's no consequences. So there's nothing in place to cause them to think twice about their actions. And that is very alarming to me, because they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and they can walk off and just scot-free and never suffer any consequences for it. And this is the rest of someone else's life. This is the rest of my family's life. So this is what scares me. And so, yeah, of course I'm going to be nervous when prosecutors have full immunity. Of course I'm going to be nervous when I've seen such injustices and I've seen people just lie to get a conviction. And you look at the Department of Justice, they've got, I want to say, a 98, 99% conviction rate. That's nothing to be proud of. And so it worries me, because I'm like, all right, so far the system has been a failure. So what's to say that this is going to be any different? But at the same time, I have hope. I have hope that these judges are going to be different, because I do believe in law and order. I believe in our judicial system. I believe we should have a system in place that runs as it was designed to run. We don't have that. Like, our system is not run how it was designed to run. So I do believe in law and order. I believe in all these things, but when it comes to this, I'm just a little on edge. I don't know. You know, I know there's going to be tons of press at the courthouse. I know there's going to be people sitting in the courtroom. They've already come to my publicist and said that they are. So it definitely causes me to be on edge. But I have to believe that God has placed the right people in our path for a reason, and to get us where we need to get to. These judges asking for more information is a good sign. And now we just have to hope and pray. And so at the appeal, for our oral arguments, the government gets 15 minutes and we get 15 minutes. Now, right now, I think it's kind of unclear, and I think it will be decided maybe in the courtroom on, is it 15 minutes total, or is it 15 minutes for my mom, 15 minutes for my dad? All of those are questions that probably won't be answered until we're sitting in that courtroom with these appellate judges. This episode of Unlocked is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. To all my podcast listeners, whether you love true crime or comedies, celebrity interviews, news, or even motivational speakers, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue, right? And guess what? Now you can call the shots on your auto insurance too. Enter the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. The Name Your Price tool puts you in charge of your auto insurance by working just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you a variety of coverages that fit within your budget, giving you options. Now that's something you'll want to press play on. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to choose the best option for you fast. It's just one of the many ways you can save with Progressive Insurance. Quote today at progressive.com to try the Name Your Price tool for yourself and join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Now, when our lawyers get up there and argue, when the government argues, the appellate judges will go back in their chambers and they could make a decision that day. Now, we will not know that decision. They will go and converse amongst themselves. They will talk about it and they'll have an idea of what decisions they're going to make. But it could take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 9 months, a year for them to actually write up what their decision is and why they made that decision. So it is a waiting game, of course. And that's also something else that I don't necessarily agree with, especially if an appeal is going to come back and be granted, even be granted in part. People are sitting in prison. They're wasting their life away being confined. So I think and I hope and I wish things were different, that you got an answer quicker, because I don't think it's right if you're going to come back and vacate someone's sentence. You're going to say, you know what? They're not guilty. The government had such misconduct that it completely ruined this trial. I believe if you think that, then they should get out immediately. But at the same time, I'm just grateful for the opportunity that we get this appeal. We get these oral arguments. And I just keep telling my parents, like, stand strong, stand firm. Don't give up. It's so hard for them because they just have no faith in what's happening. So it's hard for them to stay positive. And that's where I try to come into play, and I stay as positive as possible. And I try to educate myself. It's just so hard knowing that it could not go in our direction. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But at the same time, if it doesn't go in our direction, we have other avenues to take. And that's, once again, like, super grateful for that there are other avenues due to how our trial played out that we could take to get a new trial, or to, just hopefully get them out early. So when it comes to the appeal, that's kind of where we're at. The appeal is April 19th, 8:30. We're going to be there. And if you want to come, we'll create like a little thing for you to post on my Instagram story with all the details of what time, where to be, things like that, to remind you. And we have asked for the government to turn over all documentation that pertains to Tommy Krupp and his resignation, firing, whatever it may be. And then we really won't know till we get into the courtroom about how much time is allotted. Normally it's 15 minutes. We're just not sure if it's 15 for mom, 15 for dad. So there are a lot of questions that will hopefully be answered in that courtroom on April 19th. And all I can do now is stand firm in my beliefs and stay steadfast in my faith, and realize that God allows everything to happen for a reason. And when I look at this the whole picture, if mom and dad had not gone to federal prison, I would not know the depths of the abuse that occurs within these institutions. I wouldn't know the abuse these men and women are enduring. And I wouldn't be able to make lasting change if it wasn't for this happening. So that is one positive that has come from it, is the fact that like now we know everything that is going on, and now we can make a difference. We can make change. And Lord knows I will scream it from the rooftops, as you guys know, if there's something going on that should not be going on. And even today, there was an article that was released that said FCI Dublin, which is the women's prison in California, is being shut down because of the just rampant abuse that has occurred there. So that facility is being shut down. And that's great and all, but all that the BOP is doing is transferring abuse from one facility to the other. And that is just something, it's like, let's solve the problem, let's not transfer the problem. That applies to all areas of life. Like, solve the problem, don't transfer it. And that's just the positive that came from all of this, is the fact that now you're starting to see shifts, you're starting to see change. And I found it pretty interesting. Over the weekend, I actually read an article and I sent it to one of my lawyers. It is about Family Dollar. And many of y'all are like, okay, how do we go from like the prison system to Family Dollar? Well, it's just kind of like the way my brain works. So Family Dollar has renovated, thousands of stores in recent years, but they were hit with a record $41.6 million fine by the Justice Department this year for violating product safety standards after selling items that were stocked in a rat-infested warehouse in West Memphis. Okay, so they were charged $41.6 million by the Justice Department for housing products in a rat-infested warehouse. But yet our federal prison system houses not only products, but humans in an environment with rats, animal feces, black mold, asbestos, lead-based paint, sexual abuse, all of these things. This is our Justice Department. So how in the world are you going to fine a company $41 million for what you're doing? None of that makes sense to me. And sure, people could say, oh, it's different. It's not different. It's still, you look at it, it's pretty much the same thing. They're housing products. Family Dollar's housing products, but the United States government is housing humans. So I would beg you to differ. The human life is worth more than a Family Dollar item. Just saying. And now granted, Family Dollar items do affect humans. So it even goes to to that side of things. But I just find it to be very interesting when you start comparing that we have a government that picks and chooses what they want to prosecute and who they want to prosecute. And you see it right now with all of just the cases going on, the Trump cases, you just see what the government is after and how they pick and choose. And that to me is worrisome. But if it wasn't for everything that mom and dad are going through, I would not know these things. I would not be paying attention to these things. I wouldn't be researching these things. So if you're going through something tough in your life right now, just try to look at it. Just step outside of your issue. Step outside of your problem. And look at it from the viewpoint of how can I take this life-changing event and make it positive? How can I make something good out of all the bad? Because if it wasn't for me doing that, I would have absolutely just crumbled a year ago, 15 months ago, however long it's been. I would have crumbled. And I know it's easier said than done. Trust me, it's hard. I had many nights crying on the floor. I had many nights screaming and just questioning myself, doubting God, all the things. But the moment you use the negative things in your life as fuel, instead of allowing those negative things to just ruin you, I promise you, you will feel a weight lifted off your shoulder. Because the moment I started using all these negative things as fuel, I felt like there was something in me that maybe, was relit, I guess you could say. And it was funny. Someone made a comment about me spending more time in Georgia now. How ironic it is that I blame Georgia for my parents' incarceration, but yet I sure am spending a lot of time in Georgia. First off, you will not see me spending time in Fulton County, Georgia. I can guarantee you that. And second, I'm in South Georgia, basically in Florida. And just because, I do blame the state of Georgia in part for my parents' incarceration, 110%. Now, it's not going to stop me from going and seeing the people I love and care about. Definitely not going to do that. I'm not going to give them that much power over my life to control where I do and do not go. But I stand firm in the fact that they contributed to my parents' incarceration, 110%. But also these negative people that just think that they know our life and they know all the ins and outs. Educate yourself a little further, please, because you really don't. You really don't if you think you do. And South Georgia, where I've been spending time, absolutely love it. Love the people. Love the relationships that I've made. It has been absolutely amazing for me and the kids to spend time there because things are a little slower. It's a little just, we can go and breathe. And it's been awesome for Grayson. Grayson absolutely loves it there. So for that, I'm grateful for it. And if Grayson loves it and it's good for him, I am all for it. And let's face it, I am happy and that's all that matters. So I'm not going to allow this terrible life-altering experience in the state of Georgia. I'm not going to allow that to cause me to hate every area in Georgia. Fulton County, not the greatest fan because of our experience. And it brings back so many bad memories and just PTSD from that whole 4 to 6 week trial. Just every time I go, it gives me anxiety. But I will continue to work through that because, like I said, I'm not going to give people that much power over me and my life and my story. Let's see. So we've touched on the appeal. We've touched on that. There's also some other things I kind of want to touch on, but I really don't want to give it that much life because it doesn't deserve it. But when it comes to my personal life, there's a reason I have kept it pretty quiet, I would say, compared to previous relationships. I have kept it quiet because it deserves that respect. There's also kids involved that deserve that respect. And I have never one time gone out and called paparazzi on myself. I've never called a photographer to come take photos of me to release to a tabloid. I have never done that. And recently, that happened. And I got some people saying, oh, this has Savannah written all over it. Not at all. It had a party of too many involved, but it wasn't me. It was not me who did it. And I think it was done with ill intention to try to make me look like I'm this money hungry, gold digging, whatever that's trying to take someone's kids. Not me in the slightest. I make my own money. I work my tail off to have what I have. I have not ever asked anyone for a dime. And if I'm in a relationship with someone, it's because I love that person. I respect them. I respect what they stand for. I respect the human being that they are. Has nothing to do with their finances. And when it comes to kids, I will never in a million years try to, when it comes to kids are the most innocent, amazing gifts to any human being known to man. And I will never not show up for a child. So if a child is asking me to show up for them, I won't even think twice about it. You ask me to come to a sporting event? Yes. You ask me to come pick you up from school? Yes. You ask me to talk? Yes. Like, there will never be a time to where I refuse to show up for a child, whether that's physically, emotionally, psychologically, monetarily, whatever it is, I will always show up. Because, that's what I'm doing now with Chloe and Gray. And I don't care who the child is. It could be a child on the side of the street. Like, I will show up for you. Because if a child's asking you to show up for them, it's because they need you. It's because they want you to. And that's the only reason I would do it. I am not the type of vindictive person to try to show up for a child just to eat at someone else or to hurt someone else. I never want to be the cause of someone's hurt. Now, obviously, we can't control that. We can't control when we are the cause of someone else's hurt, but we can control if we were that's a really tough topic to hit on, being the cause of someone else's pain, because we don't have the right to say if we are the cause of someone else's pain. But a lot of times there are people who will say you're the cause of their pain because they refuse to accept their own accountability in a situation. So that's a very in-depth topic that, I don't know, I feel like I want to get like a life coach or therapist on to talk about that, because there's a time to accept your role in someone else's hurt. But then we also don't have to accept a role that we truly did not play. And right now in the situation that I'm in, just being involved with a man that has children, I'm going to love them. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do all these things. And that's only because I love them. That's the end of it. I love them. So therefore, I'm going to show up. And it's just so tough. I find myself now like on TikTok and Instagram following all these bonus parent pages and just getting advice on how to deal with kind of being there for your significant other's children, because they're not my children. Not at all. I don't claim them to be my children. But I want to show up for them. I want to be there for them. I want to love them. I want them to feel safe and secure in every aspect of life. So I believe that just because you didn't birth a child doesn't mean you can't love them or be there for them or be a positive influence. So I don't know. I would love for people's advice, maybe on YouTube in the comments, of how you maybe dealt with coming into or dating a man or woman that has children, how you dealt with the children, how you dealt with the ex, problems you encountered, how you could have handled things differently, or how you wish things would have turned out differently. I don't know. I am here for all advice because I don't know it all. I know nothing. Like, I want to be in a room with people who know more than I do, who are smarter than I am, because that's how you grow. So that was something else I just had to address. And I know it may have sounded like I was beating around the bush a little bit. It's just because like I said, I don't want to be the cause of someone else's pain. I am not going to get in a battle with someone else, just not going to do it, because at the end of the day, kids are involved. And there was a comment made that if anyone should understand missing a parent, it's Savannah. That's what set me off. because the situations are totally different. Totally different. So that is what set me off, and I had to be talked off a ledge by all my closest people. And I had to sit on it for a little bit, and I had to pray about it because, like I said, I'm not getting in a war with people. I'm just not doing it. I have more important things to deal with in my life than to deal with that. But when it comes to making comments about me and my family, you're correct. I do know what it's like to miss a parent, but my parents they showed up for me. Like, they would be here today if they could. My mother never missed a doctor's appointment. She never missed a birthday. She never missed any event for any of my siblings. Like, she always showed up. So the situations are very, very, very different. And I will fight for the people I love till the end of time. And that's where it really set me off. And I just had to ask God to give me the patience and the words and the strength to not fight, because that's just not who I am. And I am all about, actually, what did I just say? That's not who I am. That is exactly who I am. Like, I will fight for people that I love and for what I believe is right. Now, I don't want to start a fight necessarily. I don't know. I mean, Aaron's back there. Do you think I'd just start a fight?
No, but you'll finish it.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's the best way to do it. I may not start it, but I'll finish it. And so that is just, it's been very hard for me to find the words to deal with what I'm dealing with in my situation right now. So I hope that gives some clarity, because like I said, I never want to be the source of someone's pain, but I am going to stand up for myself. I'm going to stand up for the people I love and relationships that I value. And I will always show up for children. It can be the kid next door. It can be the kid across the street. It could be the kid at the mall. It doesn't matter. I will always show up for children and for people in general. And that's just who I am. So I hope that this episode was very informative for you when it comes to the appeal and just life in general. And one day, I will have Robert on the podcast. So when the time is right, he will come on, because there's just so much to say. And it's so crazy because this is the quietest I've ever kept any relationship in my entire life. And there's just so many things to discuss and talk about and let you in on, and stories to tell, and to records to set straight. So many things that we need to say. So eventually he will come on, but I'm excited for that day. So when it comes to my relationship, there's that. When it comes to the appeal, April 19th at the Russell Federal Courthouse in Atlanta. And I'm pretty sure that our argument will be heard at 9 a.m. But obviously it is an appeal day. So who knows what could happen? Who knows if we're going to be first, second, or third that day? So there may be some waiting around. If you have to wait around, I apologize, but just know that we are grateful for you for being there and for showing up for us. And I believe that showing up in numbers matters. I believe that people showing up for my family and my parents, and the judges seeing how loved they are, I feel like that makes a difference. So if you can show up and be there, I welcome you. No phones, bring your ID, and just be ready to hear the arguments. And I believe that this is a good time to show up to educate yourself as well. Even if you have questions, even if you may not believe in us, if you maybe don't believe in our story, that's okay. I invite you to show up and listen. So once I get all the details solidified, probably tonight, tomorrow, I will post on my Instagram all the details for you guys to show up if you would like. And I can't wait to see you. I will shake your hand. I will talk to you, obviously at the appropriate times once we exit the courthouse, maybe courthouse stairs, whatever it may be. And we've even discussed potentially doing a podcast from outside the courthouse, because why not get the information firsthand right after the appeal? I think it's a pretty good idea. But we're just going to look into the do's and don'ts and what we're allowed to do. So until next time, next week after the appeal, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And just remember, take any negative experience that you go through and find the good and use that to make change. I'm telling you, you will feel so much better. So until next time, thank you.